Hello everyone, I'm Professor Radha Mishra, Professor and Head, Department of Communication Media for Children at SNDT Women's University in Pune. Today we will be discussing Paper 9, Mass Media and Development Communication, and the module on Group Communication. This module has been divided into two parts, and we will start by discussing the first part. We all belong to groups, we all want to belong to groups to satisfy our needs and our needs to communicate with other people. By coming together with others, we pool knowledge, information, experience, and it helps us make decisions in a better way and also accomplish tasks more efficiently than what we can do individually. The principal activity in groups is communication. Groups function by communicating ideas. An effective group is the one that reaches its conclusions after considering the widest range of ideas. The group will have a wider range to reconsider and consider if all members of the group contribute to the ideas. For a group to fulfill its potential, all members need to feel comfortable in communicating their own idea and must feel the responsibility to contribute to group discussion. Also, in any organization, the formation of groups is very natural. Whether these groups get formed or are created by the management for the purposes of accomplishing goals of the organization or by members themselves to fulfill their social needs. There are two types of groups, namely formal groups that are created as per official authority so as to fulfill desired organizational objectives, and informal groups which are formed by employees as per their likes, interests, and attitudes. Let us first look at some of those factors that influence group communication. Group size is an important factor. The optimum size for a group depends on the nature of the task. On one hand, enough members are needed to provide adequate inputs and diversity. On the other hand, if the group becomes too large, then participation will be lesser. As group members are added, the potential for new members and new combination of ideas increases significantly. However, in any group formation, there comes a point of what is known as the point of diminishing returns, which means that the group will no longer benefit by adding more members. How a group is organized, the physical arrangements also make a huge difference in terms of how that group will function. Studies observing numerous small groups have demonstrated a strong relationship between physical arrangements and communication interaction. They have shown interpersonal communication is enhanced by comfortable surroundings. In a classic study done in 1956, Maslow and Mintz examined the selected two different meeting rooms. An ugly room, such as a janitor's storeroom, and a beautiful room with carpets and drapes. The ugly room was described as producing fatigue, headaches, irritability, and hostility. The beautiful room produced feelings of enjoyment, importance, and a desire to continue group activity. Where people sit also has an influence on how they interact. Kenneth Short reports that in any group with a designated leader, tension will develop between the leader and the person sitting directly across. the person who leads the opposition or withdraws from discussion, leaving a curious leadership vacuum. Further, the person to each of these leaders right will offer greatest support for the leader, and the person to their left will offer the next greatest support. Members' status and eye contact are key consideration in seating arrangements. Where a person indicates his or her status in the group, those who sit at the head of rectangular tables are most often chosen for leadership. People talk much more freely if they have eye contact with the other members. Those who sit at corners of tables have the least eye contact and tend to contribute the least. Some of the typical arrangements that we often see in group meetings, there is the face-off arrangement. Direct eye contact does not pull this group together. Rather, it tends to put members into confrontation with individual directly across the table. This arrangement is often used for negotiation. Then there is the headman arrangement. The headman arrangement automatically focuses attention towards one person. This member has a better eye contact with all other members than does any other. It is frequently used when one person desires to have an authoritarian relationship in the group. Then there is, we are all in this together. In these arrangements, members have options of equal eye contact with all members. It is best used when the group is working on equal basis. The other important factor in any group dynamics are the communication networks. Groups tend to develop communication networks amongst the members and leaders that influence who talks to whom. For a group to function effectively, information should move through the network so that needed information reaches the right person at the right time. A good network ensures that the information is available when needed and that the network does not become overloaded with irrelevant information. A well-known example is the military. Chain of command, as they call it, in which information moves down the line from superior to the subordinate. A real problem with chain command network is trying to get accurate information back up the line from subordinate to the major or to the superior. More common networks are the wheel and the web or variations of these networks. What is a wheel network? In a wheel network, the leader is the central communicator. All communication flows into the leader and the leader sends messages back to others in the network. The advantage of this network is that the leader is on top of everything and can more easily control the group. This is also a disadvantage because most members don't like to feel controlled. Another disadvantage is that important information may be lost or filtered due to overload on the leader. This network slows the transmission of information to the needed, which may further slow down the problem-solving process or result in missed opportunities. The web network is more open communication system in which members are encouraged to communicate directly with each other as well as the leader. Information gets relayed more rapidly. Members feel they have greater influence in the group, and the more ideas are likely to be generated through increased interaction. There are also certain psychological factors that influence group dynamics. Each group develops its own ways of handling information. These include the method for making decisions, determining what information is needed to make that decision, and how that information is to be gained and to be shared, and who makes the decisions and how those decisions will be implemented. Attitudes of group members and leaders influence this process. To what extent do they listen to each other? Which topics are not acceptable for discussion? What information is expressed openly? What is suppressed? Who controls this flow of information? All these questions become important. In most groups, interaction is not free and equal. There is more interaction between some members than the others. Lack of participation by some members may be due to the presence of a higher authority figure, poor self-image, or to excessive speaking by a few, which leaves no time for others to participate. The underlying dilemma in any group participation is that not everyone's needs or goals can be met. Philip Hansen points out, the basic universal concern is about whose needs are being met, how much for you, and how much for me. If we are to maximize group participation, it is important from the beginning to establish a climate that allows everybody to participate. Anything that suggests that some members' ideas are more worthy than others damages the chance of balanced participation. Members in a group may be reluctant to contribute for several reasons. The quiet person may be self-critical, succeeding in destroying his or her ideas even before generating them. Then, the self-critic doesn't have to open up and be exposed to criticism from others. The member who does not feel fully accepted by the group may also restrain his or her output until he or she feels more secure. Another member may hesitate to speak unless she knows what she wants to say is important enough for the group to consider. Members may be prevented because few others dominate discussion. Excessive verbal domination by a few is likely to evoke hostility and loss of morale in many other members. Groups must suffer along silently for years, enduring such domination. The larger the group or more dominant a few, the more others are denied speaking time. Finally, members' listening skills have an impact on the effectiveness of group communication. If we are busy rehearsing our own statements while another is talking, we are likely to consider his remarks. Finally, members' listening skills have an impact on the effectiveness of group communication. If we are busy rehearsing our own statements while another is talking, we are likely to consider his remarks more of a distraction than a help. Leadership responsibilities. All groups have some leadership. What are the qualities or what are the responsibilities of a group leader for effective communication? The group leader must perform a variety of functions if the group is to reach its goal of full and open participation. First of all, the leader is usually responsible for selecting and arranging the meeting place. Secondly, the leader is usually responsible for preparing the agenda. Third, The leader is responsible for conducting the discussion. The leader needs to introduce the topic and establish the procedures to be followed. At the beginning, these questions need to be answered. Why are we here? Who got us together? What is our mission? What rules and guidelines of behavior must the group follow? What is expected from each member? How will we know when we have accomplished a task? Each member needs to be clear about the task at hand and his or her responsibility to participate in carrying it out. The leader is responsible for gatekeeping, opening the door of participation to all members. It requires making sure that each member has an equal chance to participate. The leader also needs to be sensitive to attempts to participate. A hesitant member may make an effort to contribute and get drowned and not attempt again. The leader notices the attempt and he or she can then call the person by name and ask for their contribution. Just like the leader, every member in a group also has some responsibilities. Group members share the responsibilities for good group communication. Members greatly influence the personality of the group. They affect the group climate. They create and dissipate groups' conflicts. They bring their own goals and agendas to discussion. Further, their attitudes bear on the amount of participation from various members, and they influence whether or not other members will participate. Since a group's goals are seldom completely compatible with every individual's goal, a good group member needs to be prepared to modify or compromise commitment to individual goals and to help others in the group to make similar adjustments. We can't have our way, all the time in all the groups. Being a good member requires a balancing act of finding out one's middle ground, being prominent in the group, achieving one's own agenda, and the need to be supportive of other members. It necessitates being frank and open in dealings with others. You don't have to show all of yourself, but what you do show must be real. Pretending creates suspicion and loss of credibility. The competent communicator is open yet assertive. Openness is a combination of ability to receive information and willingness to respond to other group members and their suggestions. The open member maintains the attitude of searching for best possible solution. Research has found that openness on part of others, assertiveness, is the ability to state personal views and argue for those views without infringing on the rights of others. It is the ability to disagree without being disagreeable. Finally, a competent communicator realizes that we each perceive the world a little differently. Words and events are likely to mean different things to different people. So a competent communicator tries to express his or her ideas in terms of other members and what they can understand with minimum distortion, and when asked for feedback, to ensure that the message was received as intended. In the next module of group communication, we will look at formal and informal groups. Thank you.